Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. Today we're just going to talk about careers, changing jobs, transitioning, my personal experience with that, and how to align your values while you're looking for a job or transitioning careers. So my story, I've been in retail the majority of my career. I was recently a district sales manager in a company that I really loved. My values aligned with them. I loved everything that we did. And unfortunately, my company was put into a position where they needed to downsize. They closed stores, and so they eliminated my position across the company. So I was in a situation where I had worked for them just under 13 years. I had to transition and I had to change jobs. So when I got my notice, I started thinking, what am I going to do? Where am I going to go? What does my future look like? And I was looking at the retail career, and I realized that my future was probably no longer in retail, that I needed to actually change in my entire career. And so this was pretty big for me. And so the first thing I did was I sat down and I started thinking about my values, because I had a career and a job where I worked where a lot of my values aligned. I had a value for, fair trade. We worked with fair trade factories. I had a value for using higher end fabrics, and we were not fast fashion at all, and how we affected the whole environment and the ecosystem. And that was a big value for me. I valued work-home life balance, which you do not always get in the retail industry. And that was something I always had, was work-home life balance. So I had a lot of these things in a career that I'd been at for a long time. I was well respected. I had worked my way up, and I had a lot of those things that I still wanted. I didn't work evenings or weekends. So I was looking for all of those things. And that's what I think people need to do when they're looking for jobs, changing jobs, or even the job that you're currently in. You got to figure out what your values are. So for example, if you have a high value for family and you want to spend all of your time with your children or your husband or your extended family, and they're around on evenings and weekends because maybe your kids are in school or everybody else is working, and your job requires you to work extensive overtime on evenings, you're working every weekend, you might be making a lot of money, but you are also sacrificing your values. And so in the end, you are not going to be happy in that job. You are not going to be happy in that career. There's always going to be this tension piece there that won't be good for you. Or if you have a high value for respect in the workplace, or how you speak to one another, and you work as, say, in an office environment where there's not a lot of respect, or there is people that you're working with that HR doesn't deal with, that are rude or inconsiderate, or maybe are rude in the way they joke around. Maybe there's a whole office environment that's just not very pleasant, but you like your job, but the rest of it, doesn't feel always great. That is not a good environment for you to put yourself in for 40 hours a week. And so if you're in that sort of situation, I do strongly suggest that you start looking to find a new job or a new career, which I know will be challenging and a hard process to go through. But in the end, you will feel better because your values will be aligned with you. If you have a high value for something that is very important to you, and you're working in an environment that does not have that same value, you're going to be almost at war within yourself every day. And so whatever it is, you just need to look at that. So, and some people, when they're in environments like that, they're almost stuck, because you're looking at it and going, I make really good money. I can't leave my job. I'm not able to find a new job and make this kind of money. Maybe you do need to change jobs because you have to go somewhere where you align your values, and maybe that requires a lifestyle change in the end. So for example, if you're valuing home life and your children you never see, then you are sacrificing something that has a high value for you because you're not spending time with your children. Even though you're making great money, and you might say, well, I have to make this kind of money in order for my children to support my children. And that is, it's an honest thing to say. but maybe there's other ways you could make a part-time income at home. Maybe there's something else you could do. And so there is a lot of creativeness out there. We live in a time where you can do a lot of things online, or a lot of creativity, a lot through AI. So search other things, look for other things that you can do so that you can have what you value the most, which is spending time with your children, or being in an office environment that's more respectable. Or for me, was home work-life balance was a very big one. Mutual respect within the workplace. Everybody working with integrity was a really big one for me. And so as I transitioned, that's what I was looking for. I applied for a lot of jobs. I ended up working for a company now. I've just started in property management. Never thought I would be in property management. And so now I'm in a leasing manager's role. I'm working with a great group of people that are very respectful, that are encouraging, that are about training, coaching, and developing people, which I was again, a great value for me. I always believed in retail that you succession plan, that you coach, that you train, that you develop people, that you help people become their best. And I found that in a company. And so I'm saying that it can happen, that it is possible, that you can find a great career, that you can transition, that you can move jobs. But I also recognize that it's hard when you're in there and you're looking for jobs, or you're trying to apply for jobs. It can be very challenging. I know some people can go for interviews and get really set on that job, and then maybe the employer decides you're not the right fit for the company. And that can be very challenging, but you need to be okay with that and still be able to get up, move forward, and make those steps to find a career to be happy in. So I just want to encourage you all today that it can happen. You can find your dream career. You can have work-home life balance if that's a priority for you, or spending more time with your children, or a value in the workplace that is yours, or shifting a culture within there. And so I just want to leave that with you today. If you're in a position where you're unsure of what your values are, I do strongly suggest that you determine what your values are. If you're not happy in your career or where you are with your job right now, I do suggest that you sit and look at what your values are. And that might be hard for some people to determine what their values are. I remember doing this years ago, and I wrote down all the things that I valued, and then I started trying to put them into priority. In what is a priority for me? What do I really, really value? And I know a lot of people will say, oh, money. And I do have a value for money. I do like to make money. Of course, everybody does. But then when I put it into perspective of, do I value money more than training, coaching, development, or opportunity within the workplace? Or do I prioritize that over, say, work-home life balance, right? I could go out and make more money if I wanted to, and work evenings and weekends, and move to a different province and probably make more money. But I don't want that lifestyle. So it's also about determining, what is your lifestyle? What lifestyle do you want? Where do you want to live? How do you want to prioritize your values? So if you are unsure of your values, you need to sit down and look at what your values are, prioritize your values. And by prioritizing your values, this will help you find a career and a job, and it will also help you transition easier into a new role, because transitioning is very hard. And that could be a whole nother segment that we could talk about. So I just want to leave that with you. Have a great day. I believe in you. Believe in yourself. You can do it. And you can have that dream that you want to have. Take care.